Imagine this. You walk into a crowded room filled with familiar faces, laughter echoing, eyes occasionally flicking toward you, expecting warmth, kindness, and that unmistakable gentleness you've always worn like armor. You smile, offer your easygoing presence, your earnest intentions laid bare. You're the nice guy, the one who listens, who tries to please, who refuses to ruffle feathers or cast shadows. And yet, somehow, the respect you crave slips just beyond your grasp. The friendships remain superficial. The opportunities you deserve are quietly swept away. And the people you care about, they take you for granted, sometimes even exploit your good nature. Here lies the paradox, the knot twisting itself tighter in your chest. How can being good, kind, and genuine make you feel so powerless? How is it that your moral compass, your sincere heart, sometimes feels like a chain around your wrists rather than wings on your back? You want to be loved, respected, successful, not through manipulation or cruelty, but through authenticity. And yet the world seems to reward the ruthless, the cunning, the cold-hearted while dismissing your softness as weakness. Why does the path of virtue often feel like a road to invisibility? Picture a chessboard where every piece knows the rules, but only some dare to bend or break them. The pawns, those who play nice, march forward predictably, hoping their steady approach wins the game. The queens and knights, sharper, more strategic, carve unexpected paths, seizing power with precision and without remorse. In life's game, where do you find yourself? A predictable pawn or a cunning player? Is niceness inherently a disadvantage? Or is there a deeper strategy you have yet to uncover? And here's the unsettling truth. What if nice isn't just overlooked but actively disarmed? What if the very traits you cherish, empathy, honesty, fairness, are seen as vulnerabilities by the world's brutal calculus? Imagine the crushing weight of living with the belief that kindness equals weakness, that gentleness invites exploitation, that sincerity is a mask for naivety. How would this reshape your sense of self, your choices, your dreams? Could it be that your niceness is not simply a personality trait but a psychological prison? A set of unexamined beliefs and habits forged by cultural narratives and childhood experiences? That your nice guy persona is simultaneously your shield and your shackle? And if so, what forces sustain this illusion, keeping you locked in a cycle of frustration and invisibility? Now, ask yourself, if the world rewards cunning over kindness, does that mean you must abandon your values to survive? Or is there a hidden wisdom, perhaps buried in the shadows of history and philosophy, that reveals how one might be both good and powerful? Is it possible that the path you long for, the path of the honorable and strong, requires a new understanding of power, one that neither sacrifices your integrity nor surrenders your strength? Imagine waking one day to find that the old definitions of nice and strong no longer hold meaning, that the binary you have believed in, kindness versus strength, virtue versus power, was a lie. What would it feel like to step beyond this false dichotomy, to wield your goodness like a sword instead of a burden? Would the world change around you? Or would you become the force that changes the world? In this unfolding journey, we confront the uncomfortable question that underpins your entire existence as a nice guy. Why does your goodness seem to invite disregard and even contempt in a world that calls itself civilized? Why do those who play by the harsher rules rise while you remain trapped in a cycle of silent disappointment? And most importantly, can the teachings of one of history's most notorious thinkers, Niccolo Machiavelli, offer a radical, transformative answer to this dilemma? Prepare to step into a labyrinth where kindness is not weakness, where strategy is not cruelty, and where your deepest values may be the very key to mastery over yourself and your fate. The answer will unsettle you. It will challenge the foundation of everything you thought you knew about being nice. But it will also ignite something profound, something fierce and free within you. Before we unravel this paradox, before we peer into the shadows that hold your kindness captive, ask yourself, what if the very thing you see as your greatest virtue is also your greatest vulnerability? And what if true strength lies not in denying your nature but in mastering it? The question hangs in the air, heavy as a guillotine's blade, ready to fall. What comes next will break you open, tear down your illusions, and, if you're brave enough, rebuild you into someone who can navigate the world's ruthless dance without losing their soul. You feel the weight of your own kindness. But what if this weight isn't simply the world's doing? What if it's a burden born deep inside you, entwined with the very architecture of your psyche? Beneath the surface of your gentle demeanor lies a hidden machinery, quietly orchestrating how you perceive yourself and your place in the world. This machinery is woven from threads spun by centuries of psychological conditioning, philosophical conflicts, and cultural narratives that quietly shape your identity without your consent. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your nice guy self, the side that pleads for approval and avoids conflict, is more than a mask. It is a shadow. Not the wild, overt darkness you fear, but the subtle, unconscious patterns you've inherited. This shadow carries within it fears of rejection, abandonment, and being unloved. But it also holds the suppressed parts of your psyche. Rage, ambition, assertiveness, and even cruelty. Traits you have learned to deny, fearing they would make you unlovable. This suppression does not come from nowhere. From childhood, you were taught that nice equals good, and strong means mean or selfish. Your kindness was rewarded with affection, your assertiveness punished with withdrawal. You learned to cloak your desires beneath the soothing veil of compliance, convincing yourself that harmony was the highest goal, even if it cost you your voice. But this very compromise breeds a slow erosion of your authentic self, fragmenting your identity into what Jung called the persona, a social mask designed to please others, and the neglected, unlived parts of your soul. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche challenge this simplistic moral binary. Nietzsche's critique of traditional good and evil shows us that goodness itself can be a form of weakness when it emerges from ressentiment, the reactive bitterness of those who lack power. He warns that society's moral ideals often serve the interests of the weak by condemning strength and ambition. In other words, your nice guy ethos might be less a moral triumph and more a psychological trap that preserves your comfort zone while stifling your growth. Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher of pessimism, adds another layer. The human will is an insatiable force, driving desire, conflict, and struggle. To deny your own will, to deny the aggressive, self-assertive impulses within, is to wage war against your nature. This internal conflict generates anxiety and self-loathing, as you suppress parts of yourself that are vital for survival and fulfillment. Your niceness becomes a battleground where your authentic desires and your social conditioning clash, leaving you exhausted and fragmented. The cultural narrative compounds this psychological torment. Aldous Huxley foresaw a society where surface-level niceness masks deeper alienation, where the illusion of harmony conceals systemic power imbalances. You are trapped in a theater where kindness is performed to maintain social peace. Yet underneath, invisible forces manipulate relationships and hierarchies. The nice guy is caught between wanting genuine connection and navigating a world that prizes strategic dominance. Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism sharpens this insight. Your identity is not fixed but continuously created through choices. Yet those choices are haunted by bad faith, the self-deception that denies your freedom and responsibility. Your nice guy behavior may be a form of bad faith, a way to escape the terrifying burden of freedom by hiding behind socially acceptable roles. You avoid conflict, reject your ambitions, and sacrifice your authenticity to avoid existential isolation. Yet in doing so, you deepen the very alienation you fear. Viktor Frankl, who endured the abyss of the Holocaust, teaches us that meaning is found not in comfort or external approval but in the courage to face suffering and assert one's will authentically. The nice guy often flees from suffering, the discomfort of conflict, rejection, and failure, only to find himself trapped in a purgatory of quiet desperation. The escape is not in pleasing others but in embracing the full spectrum of human experience, including the darkness within. So what is this hidden problem? Really, it is a collision between your conditioned niceness and the raw, primal demands of your nature. A conflict that fractures your identity, binds you in self-doubt, and perpetuates a cycle of frustration and invisibility. Your kindness, while genuine, is co-opted by fears and cultural scripts that prevent it from becoming a source of strength. This is the psychological and philosophical crucible in which your dilemma is forged. Your nice guy self is caught in an intricate dance, between light and shadow, between social expectation and primal will, between the yearning for love and the necessity of power. To understand this dynamic is to begin the journey of transformation. The implications stretch far beyond your personal suffering. This hidden mechanism shapes the very way you experience relationships, ambition, and meaning. It conditions you to seek validation externally while ignoring the internal sources of power that have always been within you. It drives you to smooth over conflicts at the expense of your own voice, fostering a fragile peace that can shatter under pressure. Yet this internal war is not unique to you. It echoes throughout history and culture, reflected in the stories of heroes and villains, saints and tyrants. It is the ancient paradox of human nature. The simultaneous longing for connection and dominance, for virtue and survival, for authenticity and acceptance. This paradox is the soil from which the nice guy problem grows. A problem as much about identity and meaning as it is about social dynamics. And now, the tension rises. Beneath your politeness and goodwill, the shadow stirs. The fragile equilibrium threatens to collapse. The next revelation awaits, a glimpse of the unseen consequences that will force you to confront not only how you are perceived but who you have become. Before you turn the page, feel this tension inside you. The quiet unrest that refuses to be silenced by niceness alone. There is something restless beneath your kindness, something demanding release, mastery, transformation. You are on the edge of a precipice where your old self will fall away. But what lies beyond that fall? What unseen forces shape the reality you have accepted as your fate? And what price have you paid to maintain the illusion of nice? You believe you are simply a nice guy, a person who tries to do the right thing. But beneath the surface, unseen forces are weaving a web around you. A web so intricate and insidious that you hardly realize you are caught within it. These forces don't just shape your internal struggle. They shape your reality, your relationships, and even the structures of society itself. The consequences of your unexamined niceness are far more profound and dangerous than you imagine. Your mind is not the purely rational instrument you might hope it to be. Neuroscience reveals a battlefield where ancient instincts and modern cognition collide. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and impulse control, wrestles endlessly with the limbic system, the seat of emotion and survival instincts. When you strive to be nice, you are often suppressing signals from this primal core. Signals that scream for self-protection, for dominance, for assertion. Your brain's wiring pushes you toward conflict avoidance and social harmony because, evolutionarily, group cohesion was a survival strategy. But this harmony often comes at the cost of your own power and agency. Social psychology exposes another hidden layer: the cognitive biases that silently steer human behavior. The nice guy frequently falls victim to the spotlight effect, the illusion that others are scrutinizing their kindness, flaws, and intentions more than they actually are. This leads to hypervigilance, self-monitoring, and second-guessing, which paradoxically can make your kindness appear less authentic. People sense this internal tension and unconsciously recoil from it, favoring more confident, even aggressive, individuals. The niceness trap also exploits the confirmation bias. When you expect to be overlooked or exploited, your mind filters reality to confirm these expectations. You notice the subtle dismissals, the unreturned favors, the quiet sidelining, and your worldview hardens. This feedback loop deepens your sense of invisibility and powerlessness. Yet it remains invisible because it feels like your natural reality. At the societal level, this dynamic scales. Groups and institutions tend to reward those who play the game of power aggressively. Whether in corporate boardrooms, politics, or social circles, the winners are often those who understand not just the rules but the dark undercurrents of influence, manipulation, strategic deception, ruthless competition. The nice guy, clinging to honesty and fairness, watches from the sidelines, bewildered by the brutal efficiency of the less scrupulous. This is not mere cynicism. It is a system, a feedback mechanism that shapes who rises and who falls, who speaks and who remains silent. The consequence: the genuine, kind-hearted often remain marginalized, their talents unseen, their voices unheard, their potential untapped. And in their silence, the world loses the richness of their contribution. Neuroscientists have shown that social rejection triggers the same neural pathways as physical pain. Each slight, Each ignored effort chips away at your brain's architecture, reinforcing patterns of low self-esteem and social withdrawal. Over time, your nervous system learns to brace for rejection, to avoid risk, and to mask your true self to survive. This biological conditioning traps you in a prison of fear dressed as politeness. But it doesn't stop at personal cost. The ripple effects extend outward, altering the fabric of relationships. Partners, friends, colleagues intuitively sense the subtle imbalance. Your suppression of self contrasts with others' unrestrained assertiveness. This imbalance breeds resentment, miscommunication, and unspoken power struggles. The nice guy becomes an unwitting enabler, allowing toxicity to flourish because confrontation feels like betrayal. Even your dreams and ambitions are caught in this invisible snare. The nice guy often hesitates to claim space or assert goals, fearing it will disrupt harmony or alienate others. This hesitation is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Opportunities pass by, leadership roles remain elusive, and your impact diminishes. The world rewards visibility, and invisibility is its silent sentence. Psychologically, this leads to a state known as learned helplessness, a condition where repeated exposure to uncontrollable negative situations causes a person to accept passivity as their fate. You may find yourself trapped in cycles of disappointment and self-blame, unable to see the path to change because your mind has adapted to expect powerlessness. Yet this learned helplessness is not inevitable. It is the result of invisible, cumulative conditioning, a conditioning you have not yet fully recognized or confronted. The neuroplasticity of your brain means it can change, but only if you become conscious of these hidden consequences. There is also a social contagion to this dynamic. When nice guys withdraw or fail to assert their power, it sends a silent signal that dominance and aggression are the only paths to success. This signal perpetuates a vicious cycle in society, eroding empathy, trust, and cooperation on a larger scale. The very values you cherish, kindness, integrity, fairness, begin to vanish from collective consciousness, replaced by cynicism and exploitation. The stakes could not be higher. Your personal struggle is intertwined with a societal crisis, the erosion of genuine connection and the rise of transactional, strategic relationships. When niceness becomes synonymous with weakness, the entire social fabric frays, creating alienation and distrust. And so, you live a double life. On the surface, you wear kindness like a badge of honor. Beneath, a storm brews, a storm of frustration, invisibility, and quiet rage at a world that does not see you for who you truly are. This storm is not merely emotional. It is existential. It challenges your sense of meaning, belonging, and purpose. This is why the problem feels so urgent and unyielding. It is not just about being overlooked. It is about losing yourself. The hidden forces at play distort your reality, shaping your self-image, your interactions, and your destiny. If you remain unaware, these forces will continue to dictate your life, pushing you deeper into the shadows of invisibility and disempowerment. But awareness is the first step toward liberation. The very fact that you feel this tension, that you question why kindness seems to fail you, means you stand on the threshold of a profound transformation. What you have yet to see, however, is how deeply these unseen consequences permeate every level of your existence, and how radically you must rethink your relationship to kindness, power, and selfhood to break free. The question now becomes, how do you rebel against these invisible chains? How do you reclaim your voice, your agency, and your integrity without sacrificing the very kindness that defines you? What does it mean to be both nice and truly powerful in a world that confuses these concepts? The answers will not come easily. They demand courage to face uncomfortable truths and the willingness to dismantle long-held beliefs. But they exist, and they have been hidden in plain sight for centuries, cloaked in the writings of one of history's most controversial minds, Machiavelli. Imagine standing at the edge of a battlefield where your old self lies defeated, worn down by the silent wars of invisibility and self-denial. You felt the crushing weight of kindness turned weakness, the bitter taste of being unseen, unheard, and undervalued. But now, there is a crack in the armor of your conditioning, a fissure in the carefully constructed persona you've maintained to survive. Through this crack, a radical possibility emerges. What if your niceness could become your greatest weapon? This is not a call to abandon your values or to cloak yourself in coldness or cruelty. No, the rebellion you are about to undertake is subtler and infinitely more profound. It demands a ruthless honesty with yourself, a strategic awakening that marries your kindness with a newfound mastery of power. To break free is to wield your goodness not as a shield against the world's harshness but as a blade, precise, deliberate, and unyielding. Niccolo Machiavelli, the man often miscast as the patron saint of ruthless tyranny, offers a startling paradox. Power does not have to corrupt your soul, it can illuminate it. His teachings, misunderstood and maligned for centuries, reveal that the art of power is not about sacrificing virtue but about redefining it. Machiavelli does not preach the abandonment of kindness. He urges the intelligent use of kindness in the service of survival and influence. You must learn the dance of appearances and realities. To be nice in the Machiavellian sense is to be aware of the forces at play, the desires, fears, and ambitions of those around you, and to respond with intention, not impulse. It means cultivating a presence that commands respect not through loud aggression but through measured control. This is the essence of what Machiavelli calls virtù, a dynamic, adaptive strength that bends the world without breaking your soul. But what does this look like in practice? It begins with reclaiming your internal dialogue. The nice guy habit of self-effacement and apology must be dismantled. You must cultivate self-respect as fiercely as you cultivate empathy. This means setting boundaries without guilt, speaking your truth with clarity, and refusing to let others define your worth. Your kindness becomes a choice, not a compulsion. Historically, figures like Queen Elizabeth I embody this synthesis of kindness and strategic power. She wielded mercy and generosity when it served her aims and sharp decisiveness when her throne was threatened. Her reign was not built on naive goodwill but on a sophisticated understanding of human nature and power dynamics. Like her, you must learn when to yield and when to strike, when to forgive and when to demand justice. This rebellion also demands that you embrace your shadow, the parts of yourself you've denied in the name of niceness. Your anger, your ambition, your desire for recognition are not flaws to suppress but energies to harness. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming whole by integrating the shadow, is a vital key here. When you accept these dark parts, you stop giving them unconscious control. Instead, you direct them consciously, transforming them from destructive forces into sources of resilience and creativity. To break free is to recognize the theater of social interaction for what it is. A strategic game where masks are worn not to deceive but to navigate complex realities. You don't become a cynic. You become a master player. Someone who can choose when to reveal kindness, when to hold back, and when to use force. This is not a betrayal of your nature but an evolution of it. On a practical level, this means adopting new habits, learning the art of timing, mastering the power of silence, and cultivating an aura of unpredictability. Like a great chess player, you think several moves ahead, understanding the needs and weaknesses of others without losing your own center. Your niceness becomes a deliberate act of power, a tool for influence rather than a burden. Consider the modern example of someone like Nelson Mandela, who combined fierce compassion with unshakable resolve. His kindness was strategic, a force that disarmed opponents and united a fractured nation. He did not allow niceness to render him passive. Instead, he transformed it into a source of unstoppable power. This transformation requires courage, the courage to face rejection, to risk conflict, and to accept that not everyone will like the new you. It demands patience, because mastering this new self is a process of trial, error, and reflection. But with each step, you reclaim a piece of yourself lost to fear and habit. And there is liberation here. Imagine waking up free from the need to prove your goodness through appeasement. Free from the exhaustion of constant self-policing. Free to express kindness as a true choice, untainted by insecurity or desperation. But remember, this rebellion is not a quick fix or a superficial makeover. It is a deep, ongoing transformation that challenges the very core of your identity. It asks you to become both warrior and sage, tender and fierce, honest and strategic. It demands that you rewrite the story you tell yourself about what it means to be nice and what it means to be strong. As you step onto this path, You join a lineage of those who refuse to be victims of their nature or their circumstances. You learn to wield kindness as power, to blend empathy with strength, and to carve out a space in the world that honors both your soul and your will. Imagine standing alone in a silent room, the walls echoing with every choice you have ever made. The quiet compromises, the hidden resentments, the endless dance between kindness and power. The air is thick with the ghosts of what ifs and not nows. In this moment, stripped of distraction and pretense, a truth emerges, not whispered, but shouted in the depths of your being. The ultimate truth that has been buried beneath layers of social conditioning, self-doubt, and fear. The paradox that has haunted you from the start is not a puzzle to be solved but a riddle to be embraced. To be truly kind, you must be unapologetically strong. To be truly strong, you must embody kindness without hesitation. The dichotomy shatters, revealing that strength and kindness are not opposites but two sides of the same coin, an indivisible whole. This is the deepest realization. Your power is not something outside of you to be seized or won from others. It is the reclamation of your own integrity, your own voice, your own presence. It is the moment when you stop asking for permission to exist fully and instead grant yourself that permission with fierce compassion. Consider the wisdom of Machiavelli once more, now reframed through the lens of your journey. His lessons were not an endorsement of cruelty, but an invitation to radical authenticity. Power, he taught, is a dance of realities, where illusions and truths collide, where morality is a tool, not a cage. The nice guy who embraces this does not lose his soul but discovers it. He is no longer a pawn but a player, no longer a victim but a creator. Philosophers have long wrestled with this unity. Nietzsche's call to become who you are echoes here, not as a call to arrogance but to wholeness. Jung's process of individuation finds its culmination when the shadow and light merge, when you claim your darkness as part of your light. Frankl's insistence on finding meaning through suffering resonates deeply now. Your struggles were not barriers but crucibles forging the authentic self. This realization is liberating and terrifying. It demands you to look at every nice act you've performed, not as weakness or submission, but as potential strength unrecognized, as seeds waiting to bloom. It demands you to face your fears of rejection, to hold your own anger without shame, to walk boldly into relationships and challenges with a heart both tender and armored. You see now that the chains were never about kindness itself. They were about your fear of being yourself in a world that rewards masks. The nice guy problem is not a flaw but an invitation, a call to embody a new kind of courage, one that embraces paradox and complexity. Imagine living from this truth. Kindness no longer a mask but a radiant force. Strength no longer a weapon but a foundation. Your interactions become dances of authenticity. Your decisions expressions of aligned will. Your presence a beacon that demands respect and inspires connection. And yet, this path is solitary and demanding. It asks you to carry the burden of freedom, the responsibility of choice and consequence. It asks you to accept that not everyone will understand or approve, but those who matter will see you, fully and unapologetically. And in that recognition, you find belonging beyond approval. Your story shifts from survival to creation, from reaction to mastery. The paradox resolves into harmony. You are the architect of your life, the keeper of your soul, the embodiment of a truth both ancient and eternal. As the silence deepens, a final image forms, a flame flickering in the darkness, steady and bright. It is the light of your own authenticity, born from the fusion of kindness and strength. It is a light that cannot be extinguished, a power no one can take away. This is the ultimate gift Machiavelli's advice offers to the nice guy, not the abandonment of kindness for power, but the courageous integration of both into a new way of being, a way that honors your complexity, your depth, and your undeniable worth. And as you step forward from this realization, the world shifts, not because it has changed, but because you have. You carry the flame into every interaction, every challenge, every silent moment, transforming darkness into light, weakness into strength, and niceness into the fiercest form of power there is, authenticity.